Hi, I'm Calico Spritz. I'm a burlesque artist, and this is the very first episode of Rhinestone Spill. In this series, we're going to do just that. We're going to rhinestone. So pick up a rhinestone project that you have been neglecting, okay? Or anything else you want to work on. And we're going to spill, okay? I'm going to spill some tea. I'm going to spill some secrets, and I'm hopefully not going to spill any rhinestones. So grab your beverage of choice. Mine is a matcha. Sit back with your project and let's get started. Before we spill, I'm going to talk about what I'm going to be working on today. You might have seen me make this garter belt a few weeks ago here on the channel. I love her and she has been performing so well. She's sturdy. She hasn't split any seams, anything like that. So we need to add a little glamour, okay? I'm going to be working with the same rhinestones that I used in the DIY pasties video that I shared last week, and that means I'm going to be working with black and hematite, and I've got some little orzo shaped, which is I'm gonna continue to call them that because that's what they are, orzo shaped gems. I don't anticipate that I will finish stoning this garter belt in this video. This is just accountability. You're here watching me, so I have to do it, okay? And that's what I want to give to you. So let's get started. Almost spilled immediately, almost spilled my rhinestones. I asked over on Instagram what y'all wanted me to discuss in this first episode. Overwhelmingly, the answer was what I learned the first time I ever did burlesque. The first burlesque costume that I made and the debut performance that I made was not actually the first time I ever did burlesque. I started in open stages, which is a little bit like a karaoke or an open mic situation. I guess this is kind of a two-part answer. So the first time I went to an open stage, I was totally in awe because it's such a fun, sweet space to see people trying new things, and it gives so much permission to others to do the same thing. So I didn't anticipate performing at all. In fact, I was really nervous, but then I watched the first act. There was a little bit of an intermission, and I thought, no time like the present, but I didn't fully do burlesque. I just got up on stage with a song that I knew really well, and I danced around the audience, and I took off one thing, and it was my belt, and I loved it. This glue just will not come out. Let's switch. Doing that open stage for the first time was such a good way to sort of like dip my toe in and see, like, did I actually like the process of performing in front of an audience in that way? I had performed in theater, I had performed, playing live music, but I had never taken anything off in front of people with the intention of it being salacious in any kind of way. And when I took off my belt in that performance, I was like, ding, 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 ding. Uh-oh, I like this a lot. I'm really making this rhinestone pattern up as I go. This is just kind of what I've been thinking about the last few weeks. This is going to be quite the task for me to talk while I do this. So I'll get used to it. I'm sure I'll get used to it, but I tend to just start to completely zone out when I rhinestone. So this will be a good skill to develop, I think. After that, I thought, well, I want to do it. I've been thinking about doing it. I've been going to classes. Like, let's make it happen. I had built a costume a couple months earlier for Halloween, and that was vintage versions of my two cats. So my wife and I went as our cats, which is possibly the gayest thing possible. But because it was vintage inspired, I had it broken down into a few different pieces. I had like a bodysuit and a skirt and an overskirt. And I thought, well, if I just make myself some pasties, that's 3 reveal pieces I can take off. I was buzzing. And so I chose a song that I, again, knew pretty well. This was that old Black Magic, and I chose the Ella Fitzgerald version, Spilled a Rhinestone. For the week leading up to the open stage, I worked on the choreography and I made a plan for myself. I knew that eventually I wanted to be able to work with the crowd and go out in the audience and be cheeky and engage, but because it was going to be my first official burlesque performance, I decided that I really wanted to choreograph everything that I was going to do so that I felt safe. I've taken a ton of dance classes in my life, but I was not ready to improvise in front of people. And because I'm used to, rehearsing a play for weeks and then performing it, I thought, that's familiar, let me do that. So I rehearsed the number all week, and I planned out, where I would take off items of clothes in the song. I planned out what I was going to do with the items of clothes afterward, and then how I would get through the act. I think the song's only about 2 minutes, two minutes and a half. I got to the open stage super early. I signed up, and I think I was maybe the second person to sign up. At that time, I believe we were performing in order of signups. And the person in front of me, decided, okay, I'll cut you a break, and you can go second. And then they dropped out and left, and I was left to go first out of 20 people. And I was a little mortified, but there was a part of me that was like, okay, you've been to enough of these, you know how it's gonna go, you know what you're gonna do, why don't you get it out of the way early, and then you can just relax the rest of the night. And I cannot suggest that enough. If you're trying to get on a stage and you're given the opportunity to choose when you want to go, if you've never performed before, I definitely suggest going first so that you can work with all of the nerves that you have, and then just let them go and have a great rest of your night. I went and hid back behind a curtain. I didn't need to, but I wanted the drama. I'm standing back there, and my name gets called, my burlesque name, for the first time ever, and I went on stage. I just remember hearing people cheer and thinking, okay, it actually doesn't matter what happens out here. I could fall, I could stumble, which I did. I could not be able to get something off. And these people are here to have a good time and to watch me have a good time. Okay, I like these. Got these 2 little sections. Yeah. I'll do something similar on the back. I start dancing around the stage. In addition to those costume pieces I mentioned earlier, I had these little flags on my arms that said yes and no, because I should explain, my cat's name is Ouija. So I dressed as a vintage Ouija board. The top of my bodysuit was the planchette. On my arms, I had flags that said yes and no. And then on the skirt, each little tendril had a letter. And so I came on stage, and I used the yes and the no to kind of inform what I was going to do next in the dance. That was really fun. It was a nice way to build some story into it so that I didn't feel aimless. You can see it happening right before your eyes. I'm like, tuck, 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 tuck. And then I'm like, and then it's time to take the first piece of clothing off. And I take the little overskirt off, and I fan it like I'm fanning a flame with the lyrics. At this point, I think I'm pretty solid. I've danced before, right? But I'm not taking something specific off that is going to reveal anything, because this is the thing. This is my first ever performance where I'm going to be showing part of my body. And then it comes to taking off the bodysuit. And I had this whole bit planned out where, with a Ouija board, it's like you're talking to the spirits. And because I had the planchette on my chest, I had this whole bit where suddenly my hands start to go up my neck, and oh no, I'm revealing it because the spirits are telling me to do so. So nerdy. Still something I love about burlesque is how absolutely nerdy it is. I remember taking that part of the bodysuit down. I turn to the back, I reveal my butt. Bodysuit is off. I'm still covered up with my little flags. I'm really trying to space out, how long we're gonna have to wait to see. And I take my arms up, and people were just cheering. And I was like, okay, I did it. I ripped the Band-Aid off. I did burlesque for the first time. I taught myself at home how to spin my tassels. I didn't ask anybody because I was like a little nervous about it. And I'm a Leo, I really love being self-sufficient. I'm gonna cover up these little stitches. Okay. I take a bow and I go backstage, and I realized that I did not leave myself any clothes backstage. So I was just like kind of hoping somebody would bring me something. And eventually somebody did, but it was like this magical little moment where I got to like be backstage with myself and revel in what happened before talking to anybody about it or having to deal with anybody else's feelings about it. Not that anybody had anything negative to say, but you know, there's something sweet about being able to take in a moment by yourself. And then I was given, I think, my cape or something. Oh, because I had a cape. Left that out. And I walked backstage and somebody handed me basically a bucket of $1 bills because people were tipping while I was performing. And I was like, oh, I love this. Oh no, I love this. And so, which has never ceased to be. I still love when people just hand me money. So if you're looking for something to do, consider that. I get backstage, my adrenaline is just like shooting through my body. I'm all smiles. Another performer came up to me and they were like, you have the body of a statue, like a Greek statue. Wow. And I was like, oh, thank you. Oh, because that was like confirmation that that had just happened and that I had taken my clothes off and was being fully perceived in my physical form in public, which was pretty cool. I think I'm gonna fill in this little section here and this little section here next. Again, I'm starting small, and whatever happens this week, and I perform with it. I'm not trying to finish this. This really gave me some confidence to continue to pursue something that was already feeling good, that I had not fully dove. I had not fully dove into. Once I fully dove, I was like, let's swim, baby. I learned a lot. Spill, cheeky. Oh my God. Yes. Wait, I have to go find my little babies. These were actually right next to me, so that's pretty funny. If you watched the pasty video I released last week, you know what I'm gonna do next. I'm gonna put teeny tiny little baby rhinestones in the sew-on holes. No, I'm not. I'm gonna sew those on later, and then I will put the rhinestones on. I'm feeling like I got a big old brain right now. I literally pictured myself saying last week, like, if I were to do this again in the future, I would. So this is that proof. I'm not doing that, but I am going to fill in these little spaces. So I talked about what the performance was like, but what did I learn? That's the real question you want answered, right? What did I learn the first time I did burlesque? I learned that I know what I need to do to take care of myself to feel comfortable on stage. In this case, that was having a fully choreographed number. I learned that you can work with pieces that you already have to do burlesque. Now, I had this costume that I loved, and maybe I'll rhinestone at some point and I'll do this act again, but I have been to so many shows where people just wear a set of lingerie they really love and a t-shirt and a pair of boots, and they look hot. They do their thing. Everybody loves it. You can work with what you have. I learned that. And I still do that. I shop my closet all the time for looks. I learned that even if you stumble during a burlesque performance where you are trying to look a certain way, potentially, you're gonna be fine. People will forget. I don't think, other than this video, I don't think anybody would remember that happened because it was so small. And it wasn't what people were focused on. I learned that I really, really enjoy taking my clothes off in front of many people, because I already love taking my clothes off when I get home. I learned that that little part of me, that little voice that was telling me that this was something that I wanted to do, was correct. Because there's a lot of things that I've tried in my life that, you know, I love to learn new skills. I love to learn new things. I love being a performer, and I always have. And so I thought I would love this. And there was a chance that I would be wrong, that it would be too scary, that it would feel too bad, that I would have a traumatic reaction, something come up that prevented me from enjoying it. And I didn't have that. And for that, I'm so grateful. I learned I love getting handed wads of cash. Did I need this to tell me that? No, but it rocks. I learned that I had a partner who was excited for me to explore this part of myself. I learned that it was not as scary as maybe I had built it up in my head to be. Really was nervous. I was excited, nervous. Like really, really excited. And I learned that a lot of the time excitement and anxiety feel very, very similar. That most of the time, I'm actually pretty excited. Oh, this is a big one. This is a big thing I learned. I did not learn this directly from being on stage and performing, but I learned this from my mentor, Miss Marquez. She said, "Did you get a video of your performance?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Don't watch that video until tomorrow." And I am a good student, and I did not watch it till the next day. Her reasoning behind it was, if you watch it immediately after you do it, you're going to kill like the endorphins. You're going to kill the like high that you're getting from performing. You're going to kill all of the good ooey gooey fuzzy feelings that you get from performing. So then you'd be associating that judgment with your performance and with performing in general, right? So the next morning I reviewed the footage and I was like very stunned that that was me. And I was happy to see it. I noticed the little stumble that I did, but mostly what I noticed is how much I was smiling. I noticed how confident I looked. I noticed how certain moves that I made looked exactly how I hoped that they looked. And I noticed too, the things that I wanted to do better next time. But that came after all of the joy. And that's how it should be. I still do that to this day. I still do not watch footage until the next day because I'm not trying to kill my joy. Okay? I'm not trying to kill that buzz, that adrenaline rush. I'm not trying to kill the experience of like going and expressing myself with judgment, because I will. I have no idea where the spill count is at right now, but it's spilled again. And this is why it's called Rhinestone Spill. This is a good stopping point for me right now because I want this glue to dry so that I can sew these on. And then in the future, I can get a little kooky with it. But this is what I mean by starting small. Starting small, hitting some points that I want people to pay attention to, and then later I can zhuzh the rest of it out. This was a fun challenge for me. Thank you for being here while I really figured out how to do this. This is about what I learned from my first burlesque performance, but I learned a lot from doing this video too, also as well. I want to see what your rhinestone project from today looks like, so shoot me a message over on Instagram if you want to send me a little pic. I'll be able to see it there. You can also subscribe if you want to see each other a little bit more often. And if you like this video, if you like having a little bit of accountability, if you like us doing the work together, maybe like this video so Daddy YouTube knows this is a good sparkly little corner of the internet. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.